points. You're losing your points if you choose this tag.
Turn back that will be available for purchase, again, first come, first serve through the queue on those dates. And
if I couldn't get my Idaho tag and I couldn't get any of these turn back tags,
Welcome to the Built to Hunt podcast, brought to you by the team of hunt advisors at the Huntin Fool magazine, where we are dedicated to helping our members go on more hunts with better information. Join Huntin Fool today at huntinfool.com. Welcome back to another Built to Hunt podcast. Today's episode, myself, Jerrod Lyle, I'm joined by Eric Bashoffner and Robert Hanneman to talk about a super important topic. I've got a couple of tag snag gurus on this podcast with me. That's what we're calling this one, because essentially we're trying to help you understand options if you struck out in the draw, if you tried to get in line for some of the first come first serve tags in states like Idaho with their new system for non-resident allocations. If you struck out, obviously, there's going to be two options available for you, or two categories of tags. There's true OTC, and we'll cover those for sure. But there's also quite a few options for registering for additional tags and or competing for additional tags on a first-come, first-served basis. So one other thing before we get that started, there's always landowner tags can be an option. The prices for these things, if anybody's paying attention, has gone through the roof. But you can compete for some of the better tags in quite a few states. New Mexico and Colorado have probably the most abundant number of landowner tags available. You can always check the Huntin Fool website. We have a landowner tag page dedicated to trying to help people see those. We also have a landowner tag specialist that you can call in and get a hold of, and he can help you find landowner tags too. But we're not going to spend a bunch of time on that. We just always want to mention that when you're out of options, you can always chase a landowner tag. So with that said, we'll dive right in. Maybe we'll start talking about the tags that you have to compete for first, and then we'll move to OTC after that. So maybe Montana. One of you guys want to jump on that one?
you bet. So Montana has what they call an alternates list. And on that alternates list, you can either apply for a big game combo, an elk combo, or a deer combo. And basically what that list is it is made up of all of the tags that have been returned for any reason. You can do so in Montana. And yeah, basically you sign up for this alternates list between May 16th. The deadline is June 30th. And essentially they'll randomize a list of everybody that's signed up, and wherever your number is in the queue, first come, first serve as far as lowest draw order, you'll be contacted if you're drawn for one of those tags. Last year, there was about just under 700 combo tags that were available through the alternates list, about 315 big game combos, 175 elk combos, and 196 deer combos. I would anticipate that number to drop a little bit this year with this newly installed outfitter point. I think there's probably going to be less people turning back tags because they had, drawn tags that they'd contracted through that outfitter point, essentially. So yeah, that's a house money play. It doesn't cost any money to sign up for that list, and you're not committed to actually completing the transaction. If you are offered a tag, you can decline that tag if you'd like. So definitely a good option for somebody who's looking to pick up an elk combo or a deer combo or a big game combo.
Well, I just want to add one thing to that. Those tags can get turned in, up to before the start of rifle season. So they can be turned in, in that mid-October timeframe. And if those tags are turned in, a lot of times when they reach out to someone on the list, they give them a couple days to make that decision. And if that person says no, then they go to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So I've known guys that have literally got the call for a tag with like 2 weeks left in the season, like mid-November. So, it's one of those things where as the season's progressed more, guys are more willing to say no, where that list could get ate up a little bit more. So just because you don't get a call, in August, you could get a call in December and say, hey, these tags are available if you want them.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I actually was on the alternate list last year, and I did get selected for the big game combo license that I had applied for and I didn't take it. So per Eric's point, there's really no cost to doing this because you have no financial obligation or obligation to take the tag, period. So it is something that I think is kind of a no-brainer.
It doesn't take your points either, which is nice.
That's right. Yeah, good point. So yeah, that's easily found on Montana's website. If you Google the alternate list, you do have to, I think you sign up for it once you get into your portal, if I recall. So you do have to log into the site and get to where you look up your points is where you kind of click that alternate list sign up. But it's fairly intuitive, easy to do. A little more complicated one would be the state of Idaho. They have a turnback tag program as well. All of their, well, I shouldn't say all, the majority of their non-resident tags go on sale on December 1 of the previous year. Anybody who's tried to get a tag through that method knows what a zoo that is. You basically get shoved into a virtual shopping line, randomized, remixed up, and hopefully you got a low number and you can get the tag you want. If not, they all sell out fairly quickly, as in the first day. But Idaho allows you to turn tags back in as well. And so as tags come back in, they become available with increasing frequency later in the summer. And what do you guys want to take how to go about that process on?
They've got some preset dates when these tags are going to go on sale. The next one we've got coming up is June 23rd. These are all Thursdays. Then July 21st, August 4th, September 1st, September 15th, October 6th, and October 20th. And again, those are all Thursdays. The Tuesday prior, 2 days before this, they'll list all of the tags that have been turned back that will be available for purchase. Again, first come, first serve through the queue on those dates. And at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, that's when you'll want to be logged in to try and pick one of those tags up.
Yeah, and a little pro tip on that one. Again, you're going to want to be logged into your portal, be completely ready to go. They go on sale instantly at 10 a.m. And unlike the December 1, there's no waiting list or virtual shopping line that's created. It's fastest fingers wins. So have your credit card data saved in Chrome so you don't have a snag getting your card data in as you're checking out. Know exactly which zone tags you want and also know where to go get it. Idaho's shopping site, once you log in, isn't super intuitive, but you can easily figure it out if you give yourself a little bit of warning time ahead of time.
No, and you'll see more tags kind of returned, as the time progresses and guys, turn their tags in. Once that draw comes out, that's the always exciting part is if a guy draws a tag, he's going to return his tag to get that. So then they'll pop up and, sometimes the residents, by that time they've already got their hunts planned and it seems that, I don't know, it's a good time to snag them. Another option is just to drive down to an Idaho Fish and Game thing. When they go on sale, just buy them. Then you don't have to wait in line. I mean, I'd be standing in line in the queue, but if I was not like number 1 or number 2, I'd hopefully be number 1 or number 2 in line.
Yeah, that's an interesting pro tip. It seems like that is an advantage, is to do it right through a licensed vendor. Or do you have to do that at a Fish and Game office, Robert? I can't remember.
No, it can be a licensed vendor. So
Okay.
in Montana and Washington and the states that border, Idaho, those states typically have vendors. So you don't have to necessarily travel all the way to their state.
Yep. No, that's an excellent point. So yeah, another good way to go about getting your hands on a tag. And honestly, some of the more coveted tags in the state of Idaho are going to pop up there. And like Robert said, with increasing frequency, that's part of the reason why, as Eric mentioned, as the dates get later on, there's more and more opportunities because more people are getting tags or cashing out and deciding that they don't want to pick up their controlled hunt or whatever.
Until August 1st. Then
Yeah.
after that, everybody gets back in the game because they can get a second tag. So then everybody jumps in.
That's right. Excellent point. Okay, Robert, you want to lead us through Colorado's turnback tag program?
Yeah, so Colorado's, turn back tag program has changed much over the years. At first there was tags just randomly posted to their website, and then now they go to a reissue list. So essentially, when those guys have to, if I draw a tag and I decide, hey, I'm not going to be able to do that, I have to turn it in within 30 days prior to that season. And if I get it postmarked 30 days prior, they will accept that tag. If it takes, essentially more than 5 points as a resident to draw that tag, they will issue that tag to the next person in line. So the first loser. If it takes less points to draw that, then they're just going to throw it on their website. And, what they're doing nowadays is kind of like Idaho. They're going to post the list, and then it's just kind of down to the fastest fingers. So, it's one of those things where, if you buy that tag, it's not going to take your points. So it's kind of like a free tag. Some of those tags could be a 7, 8, 9 point non-resident draw, but it was under a 5 for a resident, and you'll see all of those pop up in there. So, as those tags get returned, they'll post them on their website, and then I believe the next day they usually turn them over, and then they're gone pretty darn quick. And I guess the biggest cheat I've found for this system is if you can get to a place that has the fastest internet, like a bank or a big business or something with crazy fast internet, that's going to work better than like home internet. And you can usually like shoot into that portal pretty darn quick. So the guys that I know that, are IT guys and stuff like that, they've had way better luck than I have on Montana internet.
Right on. Yeah. And honestly, pretty much all of our teammates here at Huntin Fool are vie for these tags every single year, because to Robert's point, there's some really great deer tags in particular that come up, and we're always trying to compete for these tags.
Yeah, Austin bought me one a couple of years ago. You need your CID number and a credit card. And I think I was gone on a hunt, and this was back when they were popping up randomly. And Austin had all my information, and I pretty much told him any third season Colorado deer tag that pops up, just buy it. And that's what he did. Yeah.
Lewis and Clark kicks in, and off you go. I love it. All right. Well, how about let's talk about Nevada, because Nevada's got a new system they started. Was it last year, Robert, that they started their system?
Yeah. So, typically people would turn a tag in Nevada, and if they turned it in less than 2 weeks before the start of the hunt, the tag just went in the garbage, like they never reissued it. And so if it was turned in 2 weeks prior, they would get a hold of the next guy. But, there were starting to be so many guys that would, draw a tag and get scared, and something happened and their buddies bail on them. They were turning these tags in to maintain their points. Well, these tags were going unused. And kind of the catalyst that broke the back was someone turned in a Rocky Mountain sheep tag and it went under. It didn't get used. And, so there was like, half a dozen desert sheep tags and these other tags getting turned in. And, guys wait their whole life, draw a tag, and then get scared. So sometimes they just turn their tags in. So last year, Nevada started a system where they called it their first come, first serve. And essentially, if a tag was turned in within that 14-day period, they would send it to Calcami, and Calcami would randomly put it on the website 24 hours a day. So it didn't, it could be 2 a.m, it could be 3 p.m. You never knew. And, so you've seen the archery antelope come up first, and then the archery deer. And, as these seasons opened, that 2-week period, these tags would start popping up. And, if you pulled a tag off there, it does take your points. So it is a little bit different than like Colorado, where they don't take your points. You're losing your points if you choose this tag. One of the things is they would randomly pop up and you drop it into your cart. Well, once you clicked it and dropped it into your cart, it never showed you what that tag was. So it would just be like a deer tag, but it wouldn't say like what unit. Well, that was kind of one of the things they put in as a stumbling block for these bots, because a bot, then the people's like, it's in their cart. Well, they can't look at it to know what it is. So it was kind of one of the little safety things they put in. So you got to like look at it real fast, but not slow enough that someone else drops it into their cart and then get it in your cart. So, and it used to be if you dropped a tag into your cart, you had 5 minutes to check out. If you didn't check out, then it would recycle that tag, but it would not post back online. It would go back into the 24-hour queue and pop up sometime random. So it wasn't like I could be like, Eric, I got one in my cart, I'm going to cancel it. It'll pop up. You get it. Who knows when that thing would pop up. So one thing that guys were doing was abusing the system, and they were dropping tags in their cart constantly. And like, oh, it's in my cart. I don't want it. And they let it go. Well, to change that, they want guys to, not a tag to bounce around for 4 days before it finally gets sold. They made it where if you drop a tag in your cart, you cannot drop another tag in your cart for 7 days. So if I drop an antelope tag in and a sheep tag pops up, I can't touch it. So that's kind of how it's going to be going forward. So it's like, you really got to know, I want this tag before you drop it in your cart. And like I said, I got a deer tag last year. Austin got an elk tag. We knew countless other people. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but there was, over 120 elk, I want to say 500 plus deer, like 7 rams and 2 U tags and a pile of antelope tags. I think it was just shy of 1,000 total. And so all those tags got reissued, which they wouldn't have in the year prior. So, I don't know what it's going to look like this year. Nevada did cut quite a few tags. They did make some changes to this first come, first serve. So it's still wide open. If a resident or non-resident turns a tag in, it pops up. Anybody can buy it. So there's no real stipulations on that. Kind of the same thing as Colorado or Idaho for that matter. So I don't know. We'll wait and see. I don't anticipate as many tags, but who knows, maybe the rain will quit down there and the horn growth will dry up and everybody will turn their tags back. So you never know. Guys always draw something and get scared, or their buddies decide, hey, I can't go on the hunt,
Right.
and then they turn tags in.
Right. I think those are the states that we pay the closest attention to when it comes time to compete for tags, I think. Is that safe to say, Robert?
I would, yeah. When it comes to like gaming the system to get tags, those would be the 3 that that I would be really focusing on.
Yeah, plus Montana as an alternate. So yeah, no, those are the ones that we focus the most on. With that said, I think let's move over and discuss some over-the-counter hunts. Obviously, there's quite a few options there still. They're way fewer than there used to be, sadly, but let's maybe take it from the top and work our way down. So, Robert, I'm going to let you say what your top pick would be. Then let's do this one by species. We'll do elk first, and then we'll talk about deer. We'll do those separately.
Yeah, so for me, just sheer numbers, I would have to go with Colorado for elk. It's that state that has most of the archery seasons are over the counter. The muzzleloader, first rifle, and fourth rifle are going to be a draw, but the second and third rifle seasons are going to be over the counter, again, in a large number of units. I've harvested a number of bucks over the years in Colorado on second and third seasons, and I could have killed elk, and could have killed some nice elk. It's just like the further you get from the trailheads, the harder you work. That's the better you're going to do in Colorado. But then you got to pack an elk out of there. So I mean, it's really, I think, in my opinion, the best place where a guy can go and just get a tag and go hunting. They have the reduced price youth tags, so that's just over $100. I have a hard time thinking of, and again, I live in Montana. Well, we all have at one point, but Colorado would be the state where it was kind of always my my backup if I needed an extra hunt, because I had Montana. I usually have Idaho, sometimes Wyoming, but Colorado's that state that has more elk than anywhere else. Less wolves than everywhere else, for at least the time being.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, and they got some great habitat and some great herds, and I wouldn't necessarily go there looking for giants, but just good quality elk. So again, archery hunters or second or third rifle season hunters, lots of opportunities and tons of public land. When we start talking about these other states, you're going to be limited to spikes only, or you're hunting areas that have harvest success rates very close to what sheep draw odds are. So Colorado is truly the one state left where I feel would be the number one if you had nothing going and you just need to go buy a tag, elk hunting state.
Yep. No, I think.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Colorado's going to be your best bet for that, but Utah's worth considering if we have a lot of guys who are just trying to get into a whole bunch of elk and maybe a little less hunting pressure. And for somebody who just wants an opportunity to be around a lot of elk and less hunters, if you're willing to shoot a spike or a cow, I think Utah's over-the-counter archery hunts are worth looking at as well.
Yeah, but I gotta cut you off, Jerrod. But the only caveat I'm going to say to hunting Utah is you can't hunt Utah for spikes and cows unless you have great self-control. because when a big bull rolls out in front of you, you got to be able to hold it together. So if you have no self-control, go to Colorado.
Yeah, I called a 350 type bull about 7 yards across in front of Isaiah last year during the spike cow only archery season, and I think it took every ounce of his mettle to not make a bad judgment call there. I'm calling him out. He was close. No, I think that's a good point, Eric. That's a super fun hunt. The archery tags are currently still unlimited. You can hunt some of the best units in the state. They do shut the archery hunt down for cows and spikes a week earlier than the draw hunts, just to help the guys that have waited 20 plus years to draw tags to have a better quality hunt and not have you out there blowing on your kazoo chasing all the cows and spikes around. But either way, it's a great mid-August through early September hunt to go fill the freezer. And in addition to that, there are any bull units, of course, in Utah as well. Success rates traditionally are super low unless you have access to private land, or you're going to go way back into the Uintas or somewhere like that. And even there, the success rates are pretty low. But the point being, there are opportunities.
Gotta be Oregon, huh?
Yeah, I think Oregon too. Robert, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that's a state you're really familiar with too. Talk to us about Oregon.
So Oregon was the one state where I'm like, this is awesome. You can hunt, you can get an archery tag, you can go and hunt rosies on the West Coast, you can hunt the Cascades, or you can go hunt the deserts of, essentially, Eastern Oregon. And like all good things, it changes. And Oregon went to a big draw for essentially most of their areas on the eastern side of the state that have any healthy elky populations. So that's gone for the Rocky Mountain aspect, but the Rosies is still there. So, I mean, it's one of those things where if you want to hunt public land, timber country, there's been some good burns on the Coast Range. I would, put Oregon above, California and Washington for sure when it comes to Rocky or Roosevelt elk. So it's one of those things where that type of hunting is not for everyone. I mean, the berry bushes are all thorned up and going to rip through your clothes, and you're hunting in areas where you're not able to see a long ways, and you're doing a lot more calling. And it would be like, trying to go and, still hunt some big whitetails in the Midwest in their food plot or in their bedding areas. I mean, that's literally what rosy hunting is like. So, I mean, it's not for everyone, but it's an option that's out there. If like Colorado, you're just like, I don't want to deal with that many people, you can go into these areas. You might not see elk, but if you kill a Roosevelt with a bow, I don't think there's really a much better trophy when it comes to elk than a mature Rosie with a bow. But, all of Western Oregon is still wide open through the Cascades. There is still some rocky hunting down in the like true desert areas, but there are areas that have little overflow elk populations from other states and nothing substantial. But again, if we had this podcast 2 years ago, or heck, we probably did, and if you listen to it and I start talking about Eastern Oregon, just don't call me a liar. Just things change.
Disregard everything, right?
Yeah.
No, that's an excellent point. I'll take Washington on the noggin. Washington is a state that amazes me that we're actually putting it into the conversation now, because when I first started here, I've only been here 5 years, and in those 5 years we went from basically telling everybody don't really even have Washington on your radar for deer and elk to now it's one of the top viable options we have to talk about for OTC hunts. Like Robert mentioned, I mean, Washington is split in not half, but basically you can buy a Western tag or an Eastern tag. They're also weapon specific, so you're either going to buy like a Western archery or a Western muzzleloader or a Western any weapon, etc. So there's basically like 6 different types of tags. Robert mentioned spikes only. That's the case with most of the Eastern tags. There are any bull units up in the Selkirks. One thing I like about Washington State, it is a mandatory harvest report state, which means you got to tell the state how you did, whether you got your butt kicked or whether you got one. And so statistically, you can kind of evaluate units. We actually do a little blurb in the Washington State section about what our recommendations would be for some of the over-the-counter hunts, because you can look at the statistics, how many people hunted, what percentage of bigger bulls there were, how many days hunted, all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking at hunting, getting your butt handed to you for an any bull Rocky, then you can be over there on the eastern side. But like Robert said, the western side is chock full of pretty good access. Certainly there's a lot of private too, but there's plenty of public access for Roosevelt's. And one thing I think is an interesting season over there, they always have a muzzleloader season that's really close to the tail end of the rut, first week of Octoberish. They are a traditional restricted muzzleloader, but it is an interesting opportunity to maybe hunt bulls with a little bit less primitive weapon than a bow that are probably still showing some rut behavior and maybe talking.
No, I agree. The one thing I would say is, like, when you look at Washington and you kind of go from Olympia north, you get into more public land. If you go south, it's actually more private there, and that's where a lot of the better Roosevelt stuff is in the coast ranges. There is some state land in there. There's a lot of timber company land, and that timber company land does allow hunting. Some's an access fee, some's not, and the same thing with Oregon. But the one thing is, if you're especially looking on the archery side, with the fire danger, what it's been the last couple of years, a lot of times, these timber company lands are really shutting down the access to their land, or making you, bike in, which could be, 10, 15 miles on a road to get into somewhere. So that's the one thing that I hate about it, is if it is a real dry, fire laden summer, they really, shut stuff down in that Oregon and Washington. So it's not like, hey, Montana might get some fire. I can think of one fire closure in 20 some years.
Right.
These guys, it's like 7 out of 10, they're closed for a big portion of archery season.
Right. No, that's an excellent point. And to your point, even when those timber companies are opening up the land in both Oregon and Washington, it's still private ground, so they do not have to operate on the same system as like the Federal Forest Service, etc. Okay, I think that covers everything we want to talk about for over-the-counter elk. Would you guys agree?
Yep.
I'll take your silence as a yes. Well, let's talk about deer opportunities specifically then. I think we wanted to separate those out.
Man, so here's kind of a big catch-22. You've got, the ones that come to me for over the counter, and that means true over the counter, not like a leftover tag, not, Idaho's going to be sold out December 1st. So if we're talking pre-December 1st and you're on it, then I'd say Idaho's going to be your number one state. But if you're trying to find something now, Idaho's really going to be not that state. So then your tags are going to be, some Washington, some Oregon, and some California. And then you're also going to be looking at Arizona. So based on those, it kind of comes down to, if I couldn't get my Idaho tag and I couldn't get any of these turnback tags, and I don't want to spend any money on a landowner tag, and I just want to go on an over-the-counter hunt, Robert Hanneman would probably go to Oregon. And because the blacktail population is doing really well in Western Oregon right now, it's kind of at a peak. You can hunt them archery, or you can hunt them rifle. You can buy your tag there. And we're talking like the best units in the state, like Applegate, which has taken 13 plus tag points to draw the muzzleloader, rut hunt. Well, you can archery hunt that, and you can rifle hunt it on an over-the-counter tag. So, you're hunting the best area, you're just not hunting it during the best season. So if I was sitting here right now, I don't even know, we're in June, I think, but in June, and I did not have a hunt, I would still be playing the game of trying to draw or pick up these leftover, things, or Colorado or whatever I could. But if everything fell through and it's like now hunting season, I know I can just go to Oregon and buy a tag. Success rates there are way higher than they are in Washington. I'd hate to send someone there. And in California, there's some areas that you can go and hunt deer and buy even a second tag, but their predator population is second to none. Minus their wolf population, and they manage more for predators than deer. And there's some good leases, you can kill stuff, but if you go like into the backcountry, you could go days without cutting a track, but you could find a good buck too. So,
sure. Yep.
I'm more that Oregon stuff, and then Arizona is the best if you're kind of an archery guy. you guys have went down and done a bunch of great videos on coos deer and mule deer, and you can hunt them early, you can hunt them late, but with all the changes they have this year, will the quota be filled by the late season? I don't know. I mean, again, everything's just changing. I mean, I'm going to date myself here, but there was a time where I could go and buy an Arizona 13A archery deer tag over the counter.
Yep.
And now we're like fighting for a coos deer tag, and I'm not that old.
Yeah. No, so much has changed in the last few years. Eric, what about you? Out of the states, where would you want to pick up a deer tag?
Yeah, Arizona would probably be my first choice archery. South Dakota has some opportunities too. You can buy an over-the-counter archery deer tag before April 1st that is valid throughout the state. If you purchase that tag after April 1st, it's valid on private land only. So that's another opportunity to check out. But yeah, I'd lean more towards Arizona. They kill some nice bucks on that over the counter hunt every year.
Yeah. Sadly, to Robert's point, they're trimming that opportunity back, and they're in discussions right now to potentially reduce the opportunity even further. But I would definitely lean toward Arizona. I never hunted it down there in that archery hunt until 2 years ago, and now I vow to never miss it again, because it's an absolute blast. With a little bit of pre-planning, you can typically add a javelina tag to your pocket too, and those little stink dots are fun to chase as well. Again, back up to Washington. Robert already mentioned that there are over-the-counter tags there. You've got 3 species. You've got mule deer, whitetail, and blacktails. Unlike the elk tags where they're split into western and eastern, a deer tag is a deer tag. I think that the shout out I would give to Washington again is that being a mandatory harvest report state, you can look at the harvest details, days hunted, harvest success, etc., and get a decent idea of where people are finding success consistently on deer. So if you're going to go to Washington, highly recommend that you spend some time parsing the data.
Hey, can I change mine? I just had an epiphany, and I know where I want to go now.
All right, let's do it.
I want to go to Kodiak and buy 3 deer tags over the counter and just go mow down blacktails, because that is over the counter. So I'm not going to go to Oregon or Arizona. I'm going to go to Kodiak Island in Alaska and shoot a bunch of deer.
Dude, excellent point. Yeah, I mean, we tend to not look at Alaska as a deer state necessarily, but yeah, where else can a non-resident go and get 3 tags and have the time of your life chasing around those little stocky suckers? I love hunting blacktails on Kodiak specifically, but there's other opportunities too in Southeast, etc. So great point, Robert. You can't ignore Alaska in the tag snag conversation. All right. So, Robert, one thing when I was talking about landowner tags, I didn't mention reservation hunting opportunities or, quite frankly, Mexico or Canada. Talk to us a little bit about that, because there's obviously opportunities there as well. They're going to cost more, like a landowner tag, but they are available.
No, that's correct. I mean, there's, strung out through the Dakotas and Montana and Oregon, Idaho. There's little reservations that some will offer certain species of hunting, some will offer other species of hunting, but they're sovereign nations. They set their own tag limits, they do whatever they want. So those are options that you can look at. They usually have to go with a guide. Usually the hunt's going to cost a little bit more money, but again, if you did not draw a tag, sometimes it might be worth paying a little bit more money and going there and having a good hunt than going to Washington on your own and getting just hammered. So, and then like when it comes to Mexico, we think of mule deer and we think of like, oh man, like that's going to be a lot of money to go shoot a big mule deer. And it is, but that option's there if you have a deep enough checkbook. But if you're working class guys, like all of us, coos deer are not that expensive there, and you can go down and shoot coos deer and pick up a coos deer hunt. There's also some outfitters that do it yourself coos deer hunts in Mexico, where they have leases and you just pay, and then you go down and you get to stay on the ranch. You get to hunt the ranch on your own, and that's usually about half the price of a guided hunt. So there's options like that are down there. So Mexico is something that's wide open. The reservation opportunities, they can be hit or miss, because, sometimes they'll have their websites updated and other times their phones get disconnected. So you just never know. And when it comes to Canada, there's lots of opportunities, for deer. And with, COVID that ran through us, Canada was shut down. And I think some of those outfitters, are are still trying to book hunts, and they could be booked, they might not, but there's all kinds of little opportunities when you start looking outside the box of the state draws, that are like your landowner tags, your private land, reservation type stuff, and again, Mexico and Canada. So I mean, those are just other options. Like, there's no excuse if you were like, I'm not hunting this year because I couldn't find a hunt. Well, you didn't look, or you're probably not a Huntin Fool member and you didn't call us, because there's always a hunt to be done. And I've made a priority of filling up 3 months every year on hunts, and most of those are over the counter tags. So there's options out there. You just got to be willing to fail. And I hate to say that, but everybody wants that for sure thing. It's like, I'm not going anywhere unless I'm going to do great. You got to be willing to fail and go down and be like, wow, that was terrible. I'll never do that again, but I'm going to take these lessons I learned from it, and maybe I'll do a little more research, or I'll work a little harder. But if you don't fail, you're never going to succeed.
No, that's an excellent point. Super excellent point. And you also mentioned, things have changed so much. One thing that's kind of interesting is, even in our home states, opportunities are getting harder and harder if you live in the West. Huntin' Fool's always been about helping non-residents hunt the West. Now we're getting a lot of Western residents who are like looking around going, where do I go? And so whitetails are always a great option. Don't call us up and ask us a ton of whitetail questions, because we don't specialize in it. But there's a ton of states with over-the-counter whitetail tag opportunities. Quite frankly, many of them are quite inexpensive. A lot of them have ample public land to hunt on and explore. We do specialize in trying to place you with outfitters if you want to go on an outfitted whitetail hunt, but you can't ignore whitetail opportunities in the equation. I'm back up to like 5 points in Iowa for whitetail, which guarantees me the opportunity to draw the zone I want to hunt in Iowa, and I'm going to do a public land DIY hunt out there in Iowa in the next couple of years. So there's, to Robert's point, that's just one more layer of icing that you can throw on the cake.
No, man, I think that's a great wrap up of the tag snag and what's opportunities are out there. And like I said, you have any other questions, give Jerrod a call.
Actually, I'm interested, Robert, what of these tags, the different, the kind of like, I guess, you need to get creative to get the tags versus OTC. What is your plan this year? What ones specifically are you going to be trying to get tags in for you or your family?
Well, we have some tags in Montana because we're residents. My boys are youth, so they can just buy tags in Idaho over the counter, even though they're sold out for us.
Yep.
So we haven't drawn a lot of tags this year. So I think most of ours is going to be, invested in Montana. I mean, we have, between the family, 5 deer tags and 5 elk tags. And then, if we bleed over into Idaho a little bit, but, this year looks like a good year that we haven't drawn a lot of great tags, and just stay home and exploit everything we have here in Montana and our season that runs 6 weeks archery, 5 weeks rifle, and 9-day muzzleloader hunt.
Right. So you will not be trying to snag a return Colorado tag this year. Can I hold you to that?
No, you can't do that at all. I mean, everything changes every day, but yeah. I mean, there's still a lot left.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Eric? Obviously you're Montana resident too. You get the pleasure of being able to hunt over the counter there every year, but do you got your eye on any other tags you're going to try to do the tag snag methods with?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Robert this year. I've been striking out in the draws, but we'll probably stay pretty close to home and hunt Montana on my general deer and elk tag. I put in for the 900 archery antelope tag, which should be a lock. So probably throw some time at that. Definitely going to keep my eye on the return to Idaho tags too. Maybe a Pioneer A comes up. One of those archery tags comes up. I might jump on just to check out some new country, but yeah, looking like Montana's where I'll be this year. It's a big enough state, as you guys well know, to where, man, you could hunt multiple generations and not cover half of it, so yep. There's always new country to explore in Montana.
Absolutely. Yeah, now I'm the odd man out. Of course, I lived there for 16 years, and now I'm the Utah, so I don't have as many options in my backyard. So I'll be looking at Nevada. Of course, in the odd event that a sheep tag comes available, I'll pretty much pounce on any one of those if I get lucky enough to get it in the cart. And then I'm flirting with the idea of trying to do a Colorado archery hunt for deer. So those will be the two that I'll be looking at. But no, we appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate Robert, you and Eric, your insight on this. Again, there's no excuse to not have a tag. We hope we helped out. Please subscribe to the podcast, give us some feedback, give us topics, all that kind of stuff. We love to hear, and we appreciate you checking in on the Built to Hunt podcast again.